Arsenal go to Manchester United yesterday. We're going to kick off with this, Martin. You must have an extra spring in your step. Arsenal invincible, Martin Keown, that your boys won it.
Yeah, great result. Obviously not the best of performances from Arsenal. Super Mendy in that midfield, left on his own quite a lot. Declan Rice, that relationship, not quite marrying in the way that Arsenal wanted. But all credit to Manchester United. I know that, fans will look at it and say it's just another defeat, but actually I think they made a lot of progress in the way they played. Very clever, the way they picked up the message from the manager, the wing backs pushing higher up the pitch, two midfield players close to the back three. They weren't in any kind of a rush. It was a good platform to build their attacks from.
Yeah,
Manchester United look a whole lot more convincing. Cunha, Mbuemo stretching Arsenal's defence. It was a bit rocky at times, but, Arsenal showed some character, Jim, and we'd kind of over the last few years thought, what happened to lucky Arsenal, but there was an element of luck. I don't think they were, I don't think they've been unlucky in the past, but certainly yesterday there was a bit of luck there, and that's what you need.
Maybe luck was on their side. Simon can't answer this, nor could I if I was asked. How easy is it to be instantly match sharp on day one?
A good point. I think now we're very demanding in the public. We're all scrutinised. We're even looking at the analysts.
Yeah,
people talking about match of the day and how did it shape up. So we're all kind of under that pressure. I think pre-season, I never felt the first game of the season I could be 100%. There's, you can't be. You can't possibly be.
Are you anywhere near it?
You're close, Jim. You're close, but you're maybe about 80%, 90%, and your touch maybe not quite what it was. There's a lot of teams over the weekend giving the ball away. Like it's almost precision. It's become precision. But this weekend, it looked like they were kind of human. So that's what we'll see it improve. But I thought Liverpool, again, sort of stamped their authority at the weekend, came back, didn't they? Two changes to their back four and a couple at the top of the team. So they're sort of trying to find a rhythm. Man City, goodness, Reina, his performance was absolutely outstanding, Jim. The skill set that he's demonstrating from match one, left foot, right foot, way to pass, pace, energy, running off the ball.
Yeah.
Man City suddenly back in the equation. So I think it's going to be a quite amazing Premier League.
Well, they look good. You say Arsenal had luck in their side, but nonetheless, they left Manchester with all 3 points yesterday. This was Arteta post-match.
Well, that gives you certainly momentum and confidence, two very important things. Because you know that when you're not at your standards in certain aspects, which today we weren't, being fair, we can still come away and find a way to win the game. And the team has to find that resilience throughout the season for 10 months in different contexts to be able to do that. Of course, we have to improve a lot of things, and that will happen very soon. But in terms of managing to get that into a very positive result, that's a great way to do it.
So, Simon, it's so early, I know, but is there any evidence, do you think, to suggest that this is an Arsenal outfit that has the qualities to go one step further this time around?
You said it for yourself. I think the interesting thing about the observation you just made about players, first of all, if all teams start a little bit off, then it levels everybody out, so you can still see outcomes from players that aren't fully at 100% because neither is the opposition. We are seeing teams buy what people perceive to be the finished product, which is why the judgment is instantaneous. When you're buying potential, then you price it into your thinking that actually it'll take them a bit of time to acclimatise to the environment, to acclimatise to the team. When you're buying so-called finished products, then that latitude should drop away. The two teams on the match reports did tell a certain level of outcome or expectation. This is a Man United side that's been miles off. And Arsenal went and did a job on them. They didn't play their best version of themselves, but they didn't need to. And the fact that we're talking about certain outcomes from Man United and certain things that are slightly better is a sad reflection. I was listening to Roy Keane talk about it yesterday, about people's expectation of what Man United have now become. I know you've got to rebuild. And if you've got to rebuild, then you've got to rebuild. But accepting lower standards as a methodology for absolutely feeling that the future is going to be better.
Yeah.
I don't mean lower standards in terms of approach. I mean less of a bad outcome. This is the same Man United team that knocked Arsenal out of the Cup last year in one of the Cup competitions, and everyone felt that was a turning point. You cannot judge this Man United side against one game against Arsenal, which on paper has two of the iconic names in English football playing. One side is a team that's been built and curated and crafted into a formidable outfit that's finished second in the table for the last 3 seasons. Another side is a pseudo car crash that's trying to rebuild itself back from the position that it established last season with a manager who spent a lot of time talking gibberish last year and now has an opportunity to move past the nonsense of I didn't want to be here. You've now had your pre-season. You now have a base of players coming in that you want to be in your environment.
Sure.
We now need to see something better. And if losing a game at home in a better way is a version of Man United improving. I think that's a bit sad for United.
I'm with Simon on that. It's too early to start saying, is it not, man? Oh, there are signs for optimism here with Manchester United. I heard Jeff and Ali on about it this morning. It's day one. And as Simon says, 2 words, United were a car crash last season.
Yeah, but I think it's hard for the likes of Roy Keane and people to listen to that when, it's almost disdainful to hear, okay, you've lost 1-0, well done, because they've achieved great things, but there are stepping stones. And I actually thought to myself that Amorim didn't. It was almost like it was clueless last year. It was actually yesterday I could actually see the wing backs, for instance, they were wandering forward, given time to do so by the fact that the back three kept the ball in a patient manner. They could go into midfield with 2 that sat instead of 1. Yeah. So I had a pass that was available. They could go into the front.
So are you seeing a bit of an Amorim stamp even this early? I
actually thought tactically he created a really big problem for Arsenal. Arsenal's mid three couldn't cope. So Supermendy was sitting there on his own in the pockets either side. Mount probably had his best game I've seen him in a Manchester United shirt yesterday. So there's a crumb of comfort in that. But where the manager kind of fell down a little bit was he's talking about entertaining. It's not, no, it's about getting the results. And he gets caught up in things. It's like you're on this road for success. Forget what the media is saying. You're building. It shouldn't matter about entertaining. They'll be entertained when they win.
Say everything to everyone, isn't he?
That's right. So he's got to find that right pathway.
You're nodding in agreement with Martin.
Well, he's trying to. He would
not be entertaining. Get results.
Got to get results. But I think for United playing Arsenal in the first game of the season, an Arsenal side that feels in people's mind has bought a centre forward now, so he's going to be at the top of the league. He's almost a get a gel card. If you lose and you lose well, then you've lost to a side that's in good nick, and that everyone knows that you're rebuilding. I'd stick a lesser side against Man United in the first game of the season and see what Man United would have been like in that game.
But Cunha's running with the ball, though, was a real standout.
He's a good player.
But he was allowed to do that because of the pockets that were either side of Supermendy.
Yeah.
Now, I expect other teams to go to Old Trafford. We've wanted Arsenal to open up a little bit more, be a bit more expansive. They tried to do that yesterday, and I think they had 22 shots at their goal, which is far too many. So Arsenal know the work they need to do. But they did open up, Jim, and this new sign in Gyökeres, he is making willing runs into channels.
Right.
But the connections weren't there. The Arsenal weren't making. I mean, at half-time, I thought the interview process, just talking about the media, I mean, dragging in Ødegaard into talk, but he told us everything about what Arsenal weren't doing. So you get an idea, you get a taste of the intelligence of that player.
Yeah, let's look at Amorim specifically, and let's hear from him, because, as I say, now he's got it the way he wanted it. It's his team, and is it his time? This was him post-match.
I think we proved today that we can win any game in the Premier League, especially against a great team like Arsenal, and we were the better team. So I'm happy with the players.
My question: are you happy with the 3 goalkeepers?
I'm happy with the 3 goalkeepers.
Richard, I just have a question about.
You'd a snigger at that, Simon.
It makes no sense. I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but to say that we proved that we can win against any team in the opposition, yet you've lost, makes no sense. It just simply is it's an oxymoron. It's a contradiction in terms. It makes no sense. You've just lost the game. Now, I don't know whether he's going to come through. I think he needs to be given a lot of latitude, this manager, because I think he's still flailing through his ability to communicate to his players, to the media per se, to the messaging he wants to impart, to the manner in which he wants to operate.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to give him a lot of time and a lot of latitude. And I'm not suggesting they should or they shouldn't. I don't think people should be waiting for 6 games and United don't win many of them and start shouting for Amorim's head. I think they're going to have to give him a lot of latitude, because to me, he doesn't convince me, and it's not me wanting to be on the first game of the season going, whoa, hang on a second, and start calling for his head. I don't feel that way about him, but he has created a body of work since he's walked through the door that doesn't give you any confidence. If someone shows you what they are, there's a possibility you should believe them, and we've seen what he is for the last 6 or 7 months, and now we need to see something different, and I'm not really hearing much more different.
Well, agree.
At the moment, we've pitched our tents on the lawns of Arsenal and Manchester United. Arsenal left Old Trafford yesterday with all 3 points, but is it Amorim's time now? Are we beginning to see the early signs of the Amorim impact? And what about Arsenal? Is this an Arsenal output that has the qualities this season to go one step further than it's done of late and win the damn thing? There's a message from No. Arsenal, I like watching Stoke City. Time wasting, only creating chances through set pieces. no chance of winning the league, in my opinion. Gyökeres miles off it. Quite embarrassing at times. Well, it's day one for the boy, is it not? There's another message coming in from Aaron from Colchester. Morning, guys. As a Manchester United fan, enjoyable despite the result, and there are positives in the game. Cunha, Mbuemo, Mount, as Martin says, De Ligt, they were all brilliant. You bet there are signs that improvement is just around the corner. We shall see. Stephen's a big Manchester United fan. You need to improve, Stephen, and you've got to hit the ground running, have you not? Have you seen any early signs to give you optimism?
Saw loads of positives yesterday from the game. Morning, fellas.
Morning.
Nice to see
Morning,
you all
Stephen.
again. Martin, where have you been for the past few weeks? Have you only come back because you won yesterday?
So, yeah, something like that. Yeah, I was actually enjoying a holiday. I've been campaigning, haven't I, for the players to get 3 or 4 weeks off. So I thought I'd take that time off myself.
Quite right.
Right, nice to have you back.
Thank you very much.
Anyway, yesterday I thought we played really, really well. I don't think Arsenal played well at all yesterday. I think they can get better, but I think we performed really, really well yesterday. Even though we lost, I thought the new players that he brought in, looked brilliant. But we knew they would be anyway because we've seen them in the Premier League before. So I'm really confident. I hope it's not a flash in the pan again because we've been here before last season where we thought we were going to turn the corner and we didn't.
Yeah.
But yesterday I thought it was an amazing performance, but we do really need to sort the goalkeeping situation out because I don't think, personally, I'd put Heaton in goal. I think he's the best of the 3 goalkeepers, personally.
I mean, what does that tell you? How crazy is that, Stephen?
Yeah, he's our third choice goalkeeper for sure.
Wow.
But,
Stephen, thanks for the call. I mean, Martin, Simon, the goalkeeping situation is a bit crazy, is it not? I heard Patrick Davis in the Sky, quite rightly, trying to get some kind of an answer out of Amorim about Onana, about Bayindir, and about Heaton. And where are you going with it all?
Well, he obviously feels that he can get a tune out of the goalkeepers, but you saw how problematic that was yesterday when you got a goalkeeper that doesn't really come and claim. You know, you've got to be there. You've got to be a bully in that situation. You can't be bullied. You know, we know Arsenal do exceptionally well on set piece. Very first corner of the season, you've got to be really aggressive there, stand up and get to that ball. You've got to get something on it. And that was poor Jim. So I thought his distribution wasn't too bad out from the back. You know, I couldn't work out, was he just lucky with his distribution or was he actually very, very good in that area? So, but they gave him much more options in possession, building out from the back. But it is a problem for them, Jim. But they've only got so much amount of money, haven't they? And they probably felt they needed to do it in a creative manner rather than the keeper. But if he's going to keep making those sorts of mistakes, you've got to replace.
Only so,
they've been
acknowledging that.
But they've been here before, haven't they? I mean, there was a beginning of David De Gea's career when everyone was saying the same thing about him.
Yeah,
which is you've got to sort the goalkeeping situation out. I don't think they did bad with him, did they? In the end, so we have this propensity, as Martin was talking about at the beginning of the show, to instantaneously determine whether someone's good enough or not good enough. And David De Gea, for about a year, 18 months, was being pillared by the press as someone that can't catch crosses, should put garlic around his neck because he was so frightened of them. And as a result of it, the bottom line is that he became a goalkeeper that was a mainstay for them for a period of time. I think that, United conceded a goal that a goalkeeper perhaps could have avoided. That doesn't stop the rest of the team going and get a goal at the other end of the pitch and get him out of the cart, does it?
Exactly right. Tom's another United fan who's been waiting patiently. Tom, good morning to you. Early signs of optimism? I mean, it's very early, Tom, isn't it?
Morning, Jim. Morning, Simon. Morning, Martin.
Good morning.
Tom.
I'm starting to hate my own fan base, honestly. It's just shocking, really. I think we've been here before. It's a full storm. We've been here before. We always turn up against the big teams. I'm not surprised by the performance yesterday. Yes, Cunha did well. Yes, Mbuemo did well. But we turn up against them every time. We beat Liverpool last year. We knocked Arsenal out of the cup last year. We beat City twice last year. So I can't understand why this whole... I think Keown was spot on yesterday. Again, our standards are so low that, a few runs, a few different things that these exciting players do, and suddenly we jump on a bandwagon as if United are back. We're not back. We are United. We'll do it again. We'll lose against Bournemouth. We'll lose against, all the lesser teams, and then we're back to square one again.
Will you lose against Fulham next Sunday?
Of course we will. We always do this. We turn up against the bigger teams, and then we'll go to Fulham, we'll lose, and then it'll be... Amorim's building, let's give him time. And I don't think he's got a clue what he's doing, honestly.
Tom, wow, okay.
I think that's a bit unfair. I mean, we saw 22 shots yesterday, 60% possession, Jim. It was a whole lot better. It might sound patronising.
United could only manage 4 home wins in the Premier League after appointing Amorim last season.
Yeah, we're looking at the stats now.
Yesterday they lose.
43 games, 17 wins, 18 defeats. It is a little bit embarrassing, but I have to say yesterday was the first step in the right direction in terms of what...
again.
They lost again.
But it couldn't get any worse.
A lot of what I said, that caller represented, I don't think that some of it would go to the extremes. I'm not necessarily sure it's nailed on that they're going to lose to Fulham next week, but those are the sort of games, if you play Fulham first game of the season, then you get less latitude. If Man United had come out of this game and nicked a draw, I'd be sitting there saying, actually, something slightly different about this United side. But they've as the caller has said, they play well against better opposition. Yeah, and everyone goes, aha, here we go again. There's a better opportunity for ourselves. Yet the outcome is they lose another game.
What about Arsenal? Any signs that they will go all the way this season and go one step further than they've done and win it? Saf is a big Arsenal fan. Let's have you, Saf, before we hit the break. Good morning. What do you want to say in this?
Yeah, morning, everyone. Not a great show, by the way.
Thank you, Saf. Thank you. Go for it. So you're going to win it.
Yeah, well, the reason we won yesterday's game is because of our squad depth and our physicality. So well done, Andrea Berta, for the transfer window. I think he's done a great transfer window for Arsenal. We just need to get rid of some of our lesser players. But I think our squad depth, compared to Manchester United squad depth, is 20 levels above, if I'm honest.
20 levels above?
That's right, and it's just recruitment's, our good recruitment in this summer and previous summers. We're just acquiring the better players because we have European football, you see, and it attracts better players, and hence it equals better recruitment.
Okay, Saf, thank you for that. I mean, Martin, do you feel, without tempting fate, do you feel that the ingredients in the Arsenal pot, the first team squad, suggest to you, they'll knock on the door this time?
I do. I feel now, and I've never really tipped Arsenal to win the league, and it doesn't really matter if I do or not. They've got to go and do it. But I'm now feeling, Jim, that they are as close to winning it as they possibly ever can be, because of what they've added to the squad. It's never going to be perfect, but when you saw the manager having options at the end of the game there, to see Havertz, another centre-forward coming off the bench, not a makeshift midfield player having to go up front, and I thought Havertz looking sharper, the 2 fullbacks that came on as well. You have to argue that Lewis Skelly's Timber, they might be first choices, but they came off the bench, Jim. And that strength in depth is really good to see. It's hard for the opposition to deal with. So, he's putting the pieces together. They've just got to go and do it. But we've looked at the fixture lists, and it's like, I don't care what the fixture list says. You've got to believe you can go and win it. If you think it's against you, no, Arsenal, no complaining. Discipline has to be outstanding this year. Last year, do you remember those first few games? They lost their discipline, they had players sent off. There can be no excuses this time. You've got to go and do it. And
you guys did. Don't lose a game.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You look back, during the off-season, and 2002, we had 12 players sent off. And in the end, the boss was like, we need to, this imaginary line, we're going below it too often. Yeah. We almost did win it with 10 players. But I don't believe in this day and age you can do that. So this, everything's got to be working.
Arsenal invincible Martin Keown in our midst. With that in mind, and Martin, I'm not prodding you early with a stick, but on Arteta and Arsenal, interesting quote coming out of Jason Burt in the Telegraph over the weekend. If Arteta doesn't win silverware, what's the point of the Spaniard carrying on as Arsenal manager? Some managers are builders, others are finishers. Arteta may prove to be the former, and it might take his successor to get Arsenal over the line. Now, he backs that up, to be fair to Burt. So he says, since Arteta won the FA Cup in August 2020, City have won 4 Premier League titles, the Champions League, the FA Cup, the League Cup, the Club World Cup, the UEFA Super Cup. Liverpool have won the Premier League, the FA Cup and 2 League Cups. He doesn't stop there. Chelsea have won the Champions League, 2 Club World Cups and the UEFA Super Cup. Even the basket case of Manchester United have won the FA Cup and the League Cup. And Tottenham Hotspur have the Europa League. There's a point in all of that, is there not, Martin? It's about time that Arteta and Arsenal
of course
deliver.
Yeah, this is the season. Even the manager now is Look, I know it's an obvious thing. They have to win a trophy, Jim, this season. I don't know what the consequence of that will be if he doesn't, but they have to win some sort of trophy. I do feel that there has been progress, Jim. 2 involvements in the Champions League, gets to the semi-finals last year, so we know that's good progress. But no trophies. And you're seeing, Newcastle, Palace winning trophies for the first time in many years. Arsenal need to do the same. They still need to retain that challenge in the Premier League. They're in the mix. They're definitely going to challenge this season, but the Arsenal fans will cry out for a trophy. I don't think we've reached the stage yet of the Arsene Wenger years where I felt like he was almost like an individual stood at a fruit machine, knew it was going to pay out and wouldn't remove himself from the machine until it did, because eventually he didn't actually win a trophy. I don't think we've reached that stage. He's still progressing. Large parts of last season, Jim, I think without a striker, we don't want any excuses anymore now. I think
that's it.
He just needs to be positive. You got lucky a little bit yesterday, but that's good. You need luck if you're going to be champions.
And as Martin said,
one step at a time.
The fans expect, Simon. What about the boardroom?
Well,
the Arsenal board. Is it as binary? If you don't win something, you're gone.
Well, this is the question that needs to be asked, rather than the ramblings of a journalist that's writing about other people's experiences. This is the idea of what is the metric that you're judging somebody by. Is the only metric that Arteta is going to be judged by winning maybe a League Cup or an FA Cup, or going deep into a European competition? I think that they're all in with Arteta. I think there's been massive progress under him in the last 4 or 5 years. There are things about some of the things he says that I don't necessarily like and it irritates me, but I could say that about most of the managers, because they're all little islands in their own right and they think that they're far more important than they actually are. But the fact of the matter is that I think there's a lot to be said for Arteta. I think he does need to win something, because it will dissuade the underlying narrative that gets built up, that then gets seeded in people's minds, and then people start to react to it. If you look at this Arsenal side that he has now built, which is a very good side, not far away, finishing second in the league, qualifying for Europe, achieving financial outcomes, being backed by his board, getting better and better most seasons. Last season, I think, was a bit of a flat line, and the get out of jail card was getting into the Champions League semi-final, because it negated the fact that they weren't as competitive in the league as they were in previous years.
Right.
I don't think he needs to win something. I think they should want to win something. And by that, I mean that a League Cup or an FA Cup is not beyond the Arsenals of the world. But if you're going to judge them by Palace winning an FA Cup or someone else winning a League Cup, I think that's a poor judgment.
You don't think his job's in the line if they don't win something?
Well, I think the answers to the questions are how many. I don't think he's an excuse merchant, quite frankly. I think he says certain things at certain times to get a reaction. But the fact is now people have said, well, when you've got that centre forward, that's a panacea for all your ails. It's not. It provides another set of questions to be asked and answered, which is how they're going to play with a centre forward that is more of a go-to player than they've had for some time.
Yeah.
And that needs a period of adjustment. But if he finishes second in the league this year and Arsenal are really strong and the opposition is so much stronger, then I don't think it's a case of get him out the door and replace him with whom to do what, and to change the direction of travel in what way.
Yeah, I think, Jim, this summer would have been a very difficult one in terms of when you come second 3 years in succession, having been in that position, it does take us a very special group of people to still believe in the project and still get out and win something. So he'd been working with their minds and like, okay, guys, we can believe this. Now we're equipped now to win this, and we need to say it publicly.
Yeah.
If you think back to some of those Wenger teams talking about going unbeaten for a whole season, people, they matched it. They said it, they matched it, they went and did it. That's what they need to do now. Okay, quietly, because we know we got... The opposition has never been better, has it, in the shape of Liverpool?
Well, this is it. And let's put this specifically to you, Martin. I think in your time at Arsenal, you had 2 captains, Tony Adams and Patrick Vieira. Now, the same Tony Adams, and I know you have the utmost respect for Tony, of course you would, he was speaking to the Irish Independent at a pre-season Q&A over in Ireland last week. And basically it boiled down to this with Adams. Who should be captain at Arsenal? Should it be, as it is, Odegaard, or should it be Declan?
He's got a really big call to make this year. And for me, he hasn't done it. And the call is to make Declan Rice the captain. So I think Declan is my kind of captain. And what it might do, it might free Odegaard up to play with a bit more freedom. As a manager, you have to put someone that reflects you, that reflects the football club, that you think you can actually take it to the next level.
Does he reflect Arteta?
Odegaard
Does Declan Rice reflect Arteta?
I think he's better than Arteta. I think he's a winner. You know, he's got standards, he's got principles. So going on and winning leagues, to win league titles, you have to be a Klopp, you have to be a Ferguson, you have to lead by example, you have to be a winner, you have to go about your business, and that reflects in your captain. And by making Odegaard a captain is a reflection of Odegaard and of Arteta, and I can really see that. And I'm seeing Declan Rice as a captain, but I'm saying to Arteta, come on, step up now. It's your time to be a winning manager and a fantastic manager, because you're not going to win the league with Odegaard as captain.
Is he right, Martin?
Strong opinion. Tony puts a lot of emphasis on the captain. And of course, I admired working under him, outstanding captain. But really what you want is 11 captains on the pitch. And you want everybody else to captain.
But you can only have one.
Yes, but
you
need
to get the right one.
I believe he has for the situation he finds himself. I don't think Tony reflected Arsene Wenger. I think he might have reflected George Graham, but it's a different type. You know, Patrick Vieira was a totally different type of captain. You know, he was a doer. Tony would have people in the dressing room who would do some of the talking for him. Maybe I was one of those as well. So I think it's about bringing the best out of everybody in the group. And I think Odegaard is, if you think about the way that he was in a very difficult Real Madrid dressing room, and now he runs that dressing room. His comments at halftime said it all. He didn't need the manager telling him how they needed to control the game. He needed to be better yesterday. But, look, Tony was a strong leader, and he feels that, look, Declan, let's encourage Declan to be a leader. But the captaincy, it's just an armband for me. I didn't take any notice of that. I'm going to go out there and lead whatever happened. And I think that's what you need if you want to be successful.
Do you want to do this for us? Monday, 17th of August. Do Arsenal win it, the Premier League title?
Well, I'm backing them this year for the first time in a long, long time. The last 3-4 years, I've not done so. And this year I am.
Fair enough. Good answer, Martin Keown. They all are. At the moment, because of the volume of calls that are coming in, we're going to stick with United and with Arsenal, specifically with Manchester United at the moment, because so many of you want to come to air with Simon here and, of course, with Arsenal Invincible and Martin Keown. Now with a full pre-season under their belt is now an identifiable Amorim stamp on this Manchester United side, even though United on day one ended up losing at home again. Tom is a big Manchester United fan. Tom, good morning. What do you want to say?
Morning, fellas. I just want to say I watched the game yesterday, and although there are positives, it's the first game of the season. They're going up the team that for the last 3 years have been knocking on the door, finishing second. That's arguably their best period of football in recent history. United are on the other end of that, where they're among their darkest days. They have been for many years, but they've still won more in that period throughout the managers than Arsenal have under Arteta has been in the door. The performance yesterday with the new additions, obviously it was better, but people questioning Amorim, I don't really understand it. He needs a few more transfer windows. Arteta has had 10 odd windows and still not quite got it right. If we manage to sack Amorim, what's to say that the next manager that comes in doesn't like the players that he's brought in, and then we're struggling, as we have done, trying to get rid of Sancho, trying to get rid of Casemiro last season.
Right. So you're comfortable, Tom, that Amorim should be given many more transfer windows to show what he can do?
Well, I think if you're going to try and achieve any basic level of success, you need to be given trust and given time, because it's not going to change overnight. United are obviously in a very dark period, have been for many years.
Okay,
so
Tom, listen, thanks for that. Thank you, Tom. We'll move on to David, who's another big United fan. So many United fans coming on this morning. David, where do you stand at the moment on what might or might not happen for United under Amorim this season?
Good morning, gentlemen, first.
Morning.
Nice to be on the show.
Great, you're welcome.
Honest, the previous caller actually took a couple of my points that I wanted to put across regarding basically that Arsenal have been knocking on the door for the last few seasons. They're obviously in a better along the journey in a better place than Man United. United have been on this big decline now for 10 years. So if we put some context onto the performance yesterday, the caller previous to that was a bit doom and gloom for me. Are we going to go and lose to Fulham? Oh, we've seen this before. We've played against the big teams really well. And that is a true point. But the thing is, if you look at the job Amorim has to do, it's a bigger job. It's a bigger turnaround job from the brink of death than anything we've seen in the league for a long time. So last year, Martin, I came on the show, we had the talk last year, because you kept saying we can't play this formation. This formation's no good. They can't adapt. It doesn't work in the Premier League, etc., etc. Well, give him a couple more windows, right? We can already see where he's strengthened up, because we had a massive problem scoring goals. We've now got 3 guys in there that can work together, and clearly based on some of the evidence yesterday, they're hungry. These boys want to run. They want to show what they can do, and they want to try and help this team. Now, where we've got problems is at the back. It's clear that we still need maybe a centre-back. We still need a right wing-back, a proper right wing-back, where we can't just keep Dalot and then swap him for Diallo. Diallo's an attacking player. His mindset isn't to come back and defend as good as he tries. And it's clear to me we need an out-and-out striker. I know we've got Šeško. It's still early days for him, but we still need a backup for him, even if he does well.
Okay, David, do you agree with that, Martin? They still need an out-and-out striker.
Well, look, let's just say, having a look at what he was saying there, they were 15th in the table last year. So, suddenly overnight, it looked like, yes, that their roles and responsibilities, the players suddenly looked like they understood that. But we're still waiting, Jim, aren't we? We're still waiting for wins. And we're looking at all these defeats, 18 defeats, 17 wins. So this manager has to find a winning way to play football. Where he was kind of like in a straitjacket last season, where he just wanted to play one way, that Postecoglou at Spurs, that kind of cost him his job eventually. We're going to have to see now if Amorim can adapt. But I thought there was a glimmer of hope yesterday in the way that the players were understanding their roles in the team.
A glimmer of hope, no more than that. A glimmer of hope,
well,
David,
while they're losing games, that's the only way it can be.
Do you accept that is indeed what it is? There is a glimmer of hope, David?
Well, there is a glimmer of hope, but I think that there's more to it than that. I don't think that Amorim is a stupid man. I don't think that he's came over here. Yes, I think maybe the job is slightly bigger than what he initially thought, but he didn't come here thinking he's going to have an easy ride, guys. He knew the size of this club. He knew the problems we have. He knew, that it's not going to be easy, and it turns out that it's a bigger job than what even he thought it is, which we all knew. So he's going to get it right. Like, you can see that he's got a clear idea. He's set in his ways. He calls the players out, which is what is really refreshing. That apart from Mourinho and maybe Rangnick, who actually called out the culture of the club and the way that everything operates, the honesty and the brutality is brilliant. That is what we need.
Okay.
The players.
That's optimism, Simon, isn't it?
Overprotected.
David, listen, thanks for that. A whole bunch of optimism coming out of that call.
Yeah, and it's important to be so. The only thing you can say is his job wasn't to come in and compound the problems. His job was to exacerbate them, or more to the point, to relieve some of those problems, not to make them worse. So I don't think you can turn around and say, no one said he's stupid. Because you're critical of someone doesn't mean you're saying that they're stupid. But if you've come in to make something better, and for the 9 months that you've been here, you've actually made it worse, people are going to criticise. They're going to say, well, what am I looking at?
Yeah. There's Tom, who's a Liverpool fan. Is this the Manchester United show? No, it's not. Let's move on to that. Simon, Liverpool's title defence, will it be built on goals? You get 1, we'll get 2.
No, I think they're far more structured than that. Liverpool defensively are looking at obviously additions. Virgil van Dijk's contract last year was all the big discussion. He's now signed. There's a possibility they're going to sign the boy from Palace, Guehi, which will give them options defensively. They're an attacking side. Bournemouth are a good side. Bournemouth have gone for a transition themselves. They've had some of their best players plucked out from them. Don't underestimate how good Bournemouth are. What you got was a good game of football between two sides that were prepared to attack. On the first game of the season, on the opening fixture of the season, on a Friday night.
Looks like Liverpool might give you chances, though, in a game.
Yeah, they may do. At this stage in the season, they might do.
It's a new back four, though, isn't it?
But it's a new unit, and if they bring in Guehi, I think they'll give people less chances.
Do you know, it's interesting looking at players, Konate, for instance, everybody giving him a lot of stick. And I think he's just, that sort of bigger player that takes a little bit longer to get fit, Jim. And I was hearing behind the scenes that under Klopp, this guy wasn't playing enough games. So they decided to not involve him sort of until Tuesday, Wednesday of the week, because some players need a bigger recovery and they got more games out of him. And he just looked a little bit shy of the fitness that we know is there.
Yeah.
It just takes a bit of time, and I expect them to be really compact. But they've got 2 new fullbacks, so we shouldn't be that critical. But they were very open, Liverpool. And the atmosphere there, obviously in memory of Jota, and the way that the players, I think it gave them even more of a level of emotion, Jim. It was just unbelievable, the atmosphere in that game.
Speaking to people going into this season, so many people have said to me, don't rule out Chelsea. Chelsea will be there or thereabouts. The club world champions, they'll be there or thereabouts. Yesterday, they drew a blank at home to Crystal Palace. Nonetheless, do you remember the optimism? Do you remember the mood of co-owner Todd Bowley when he spoke exclusively to this show after they'd won the Club World Cup?
I think the boys have shown that they are a force to be reckoned with, and we knew all along in the value of the project. But we're hopeful that every day we wake up, the odds are that Chelsea is going to win something big.
Are they in it, Simon? Will they be in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think they will be in the mix, yeah. I don't think they'll win the league, no, but I think they'll be in the mix. To judge them against a very accomplished Crystal Palace side that are very, very difficult to play against, that have proven that in recent times by the results they've gotten against Liverpool in the Charity Shield, make of it what you want, Charity Shield, Liverpool wouldn't have wanted to have lost that game, against Manchester City in an FA Cup final. And if you look at their last results prior to that, Palace are in very, very good nick. They're a very organised, well-managed football team that when they've got their best players on the pitch, are not easy to play against. And I think you have to put a lot of that performance down to the way Palace stopped Chelsea, rather than what Chelsea did and didn't do. And 0-0 at home to Crystal Palace is no worse than 1-1 in the Community Shield to Liverpool, who are the incumbent champions.
They'd have been the one team I wouldn't have wanted to play opening week of the season, Palace, because they've had that Community Shield game. They're tough, they're streetwise, and they've still got those two players which are sort of hanging over them, Gahey, Eze. Are they going to be there or not? And I think that's just simmering in the background. Surely one of them will leave, which is a real shame for Palace, because they am now, I mean, Matete, we were talking off air about what a job he does for them. He scraps, chases for everything, and they just were too tough, really, for Chelsea to crack. But there's no disgrace in not winning a game against Palace, because they're a decent outfit right now.
What player is going to what club? And of course, at this time of the year with the clock ticking, that is what invariably it is all about. So the movers and shakers in the world of transfers, and 3 becomes 4 because talkSPORT chief football correspondent Alex Crook joins Simon, myself and Martin live on the show. Alex, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. I feel like this is a bit of a throwback, Jim. Me sat in my car, Harry Redknapp style, talking to you about transfers.
That is fine by me. Yes, you are you still up in the northeast after the Manchester United Arsenal game yesterday?
Yeah, just making my way back down the M6. I thought it was a good game yesterday, in fairness, much improved from Manchester United, but Martin Keown's old club obviously doing enough to get the job done, albeit with the help of the United keeper. We're going to talk about their goalkeeping situation imminently, but I think, yeah, lots of reason to be positive for Ruben Amorim. But I tell you what, I'd be surprised if there are many teams in the Premier League who keep more clean sheets than Arsenal this season. They are the masters at game management and seeing out wins.
Okay, let's get into this, Alex. What is the latest, if there is a latest? Let's start with Johan Wissa, of course, the French player, of course, a Brentford player, but for how much longer?
Well, maybe longer than a lot of Newcastle fans are hoping for. We broke the news exclusively this morning that Brentford continue to make it difficult for Johan Wissa to make that move to the northeast. Of course, he was on strike effectively earlier in the summer, refusing to train with the rest of his teammates. Didn't feature as they were well beaten at Nottingham Forest yesterday. A lot of people assume that when they signed Dongo Ouattara from Bournemouth, that's a club record £42.5 million deal that went through over the weekend. That would facilitate Wissa moving to Newcastle. Maybe not, Jim. I'm told that actually he's the Brian Mbeumo replacement, and for Wissa to be allowed to leave, they would have to sign another forward, or Newcastle are going to have to pay in the region of £60 million. Keith Andrews, the new manager there, I'm told, has a good relationship with Johan Wissa, and he believes that if he does stay at the football club, he can reintegrate him and go on to have a successful season. So maybe more bad news for Newcastle, and it's been a tough summer for them getting deals over the line.
I mean, you wonder how Wissa will feel about that, Simon. I mean, I know it boils your blood when you hear about players threatening to go on strike or even doing such a thing. But I mean, at the moment, it seems to be a bit of disquiet between Wissa and whether or not he can leave the football club.
Well, I mean, that's Newcastle's own fault, isn't it, to some extent, because they wanted to lowball a player because they felt they could nick him. And that creates a vacuum that can be filled by either Keith Andrews getting back into the player who he had such a wonderful relationship with from the outset that he went on strike, and now seems to have a wonderful relationship with him because he might stay. Maybe he should have had that wonderful relationship so we didn't have the problems in the first place. Look, I mean, Keith Andrews needs a group of players around him because judging by their performance in the first half against Nottingham Forest, they're going to have some troubles this season. But then again, Brentford were a little bit hit and miss last year at the beginning of the season. They looked great away from home. They looked poor at home, didn't they? And no one talks about Thomas Frank in any other terms besides glowing.
Yeah.
So you've got to give this guy his head. But Newcastle's problem about signing Vissa is of their own making because they wanted to do what they don't like being done to them. Which is
Keith Andrews was critical, though, of his players, which is not something I've heard too often Thomas Frank doing yesterday. So it will
Called
take...
him naive, didn't he?
Yeah, it will take time. Of course, there's big shoes to fill, by the way, with a manager who hasn't got much experience, but obviously really good things are thought about him. But he's got... No, but he's got, already. There's a lot he's going to have to achieve quickly. And when he's out his best players, I mean, Norgard was allowed to leave and Mbeumo was allowed to leave. So that, there's a big hole in a Brentford team that was just sort of coming to terms with the Premier League and had inconsistent results last season.
Okay, let's talk Ben Doak. What are we hearing about him this lunchtime? Scottish player, of course.
Well, I think this one is pretty much done, Jim, to Bournemouth. We reported over the weekend that a deal was close. There was some interest from Porto as well, but Bournemouth always felt like they were in the box seat. Obviously, a good relationship between them and Richard Hughes, the sporting director at Liverpool. It's going to be a £25 million deal. Initially, I'm told Liverpool will have a buyback option as well. He's already completed the first part of his medical. And this is the Dongo Watara replacement for Bournemouth because, of course, they've lost a few players in this summer transfer window. So I'd expect them to try and bring a few more in between now and September the 1st, when, of course, the deadline comes into play. I still think they'll be okay, Bournemouth. I think we saw enough, actually, at Anfield on Friday night when they gave Liverpool a real fright. Let's be honest, the final result probably wasn't reflective of the game itself. I don't have any concerns that Bournemouth are going to be dragged into trouble.
Yeah, well, certainly Semenyo looked the business, did he not? We'll be talking about him further down the line before we go today at 1 o'clock. What is going on with the goalkeepers at Manchester United?
Well, a lot of Manchester United fans, I can tell you, coming away from Old Trafford last night, were asking that question. Big call from Ruben Amorim because he said on television before the game, Andre Onana is fit. But basically, Altay and Tom Heaton on the bench have earned their chance over pre-season. And then 13 minutes into the game, Altay basically chucks the ball into his own net and Manchester United are beaten. Listen, I think everybody knows that the goalkeeping position is a problem for United. They paid over the odds for Andre Onana at the bequest of Eric Ten Hag. And actually, that summer transfer window when Rasmus Højlund came in and Mason Mount as well, looks quite a painful one now for Manchester United because you've got to say Mason Mount was decent yesterday. None of those signings have worked out particularly well. Højlund, watching from the stands, we expect him to join Milan. I did ask Ruben Amorim after the game, are you going to bring a new goalkeeper in because it's clearly an issue? And he said difficult. It's not going to be an easy deal to do. And I think that's because they're not queuing around the block for Altay and Onana. I have been told this morning that they would be open to loaning Onana and potentially bringing in a replacement. But he didn't sound too confident to me. They've been linked with Donnarumma. Looks like Manchester City a more likely destination for him. But if they could get that deal done, that would be a massive boost for Amorim.
Okay. At Stamford Bridge yesterday, we saw Eberechi Eze standing on the pitch at the end applauding the Palace fans. When players do that, might signal that they're off. Is he off?
I think he probably will end up at Tottenham, but I think Spurs are going to end up paying a bit more than they wanted to. This deal looked close on Saturday night. In fact, sources close to Eberechi Eze were suggesting maybe he wouldn't feature at all for Crystal Palace at Chelsea. Credit to his character and his professionalism. Not only did he play, but obviously he had a goal ruled out. Somewhat controversially, although I think probably the referee did apply the rule book correctly in the end. Certainly that's what FA Sam Matterface has told me this morning. But yeah, Tottenham really keen to get this deal done. They've lost James Maddison to a nasty knee injury. They missed out on Morgan Gibbs-White. I think it's seen as a priority position by Thomas Frank. Eze wants to make the move. He's happy because he gets to stay in London. He gets to play Champions League football. But I think they're going to have to pay in excess of £60 million.
Simon and Martin alongside me. Simon, I mean, did you make anything of at the end of the Palace game? And I clocked it on Sky when they ran the footage. Glasner trying to beckon or at least draw the attention to him from Mark Gahey as Gahey was heading to the tunnel. Gahey blanked him, headed to the tunnel.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange phenomenon. And again, something that Roy Keane pointed out about managers wandering onto fields now and seemingly needing to be embracing their players or having a conversation with on the field when they've got all the time in the world to do it in the dressing room. So you're opening yourself up to that. He's not that sort of player, is he? He's a decent lad. So I don't suspect there's anything very much to read into it. And it's interesting, Glasner was talking in his press conference afterwards about what people do and don't know. And how people do and don't know things, and the only people that do know the things are the people who are actually involved. And I don't know whether he was referring specifically to the situation with Eberechi Eze. I hope the Palace make Spurs pay, because make them pay the relief. And Alex has regularly talked about the release clause expiring. It seems like a strange thing to have a release clause expire in the middle of a transfer window and the one time you can sell somebody. And I'm not sure who it benefits the more. In terms of whether the club now get an opportunity to demand precisely what they want the players to get on with it.
It looks like, Simon, sorry to interject, that Gahey going off the pitch, because it was an interesting one, but is he the player who's been told, look, okay, you've only got a year left, but knuckle down, get on with it? And it's like, well, okay, I'm not going to do what you want me to do. You want me to come over there? I've already applauded our fans. I'm not going back again. And maybe Eze's
But his chairman's already said they've got to sell him, haven't they?
Well,
His chairman has said that we're going to sell him.
One of them will go. It's looking more increasing like both, but that leaves a massive hole.
Of course it does.
In this team.
And they've been able to push back. I mean, they lost 2 last year, didn't they? They lost Anderson to Fulham, which I think they weren't overly concerned about, and then they sold David Elise to Bayern Munich. This time around, a bit in the past, we've seen the situation when Wilfried Zaha left, and everyone was up in arms about whether he should or shouldn't stay because he was a mainstay of Palace's team, and yet they've kicked on. But I think losing a centre half and losing your best creative player is not going to be easy for them. It may be the only way that Glasner gets any money, but I imagine Glasner won't be too thrilled around the circumstances. But there's nothing that you can't blame anybody for the centre-back's position. He didn't want to sign a new contract last year. They weren't going to get him on a new contract, so they have to sell him now.
Also, as well, what does that do to the morale of the players that are left behind? Mateta are doing really well. Sarr is another one in midfield who, for me, is looking outstanding. Wharton.
Yeah. They're FA Cup winners. They're playing in Europe. They're playing for a decent-sized London football club with a good manager. They'll have to get on with it.
You have to get on with it. Newcastle United fans, Alex, at the end of the game at Villa Park, got on with it, but in no uncertain terms. Were singing and giving out a message as to what they thought of the behaviour of Alexander Isak. We'll find out if there's a latest on that. Eddie Howe spoke briefly about it.
We would like a resolution. When I say we, I'm sort of talking about myself, and I'm sure the ownership, everyone, really the players that we have, because I think we need that clarity. This season, any season, Premier League season, is going to be hard enough. You don't need any kind of distraction to swerve your thoughts, to unbalance what we're doing. So, yes, but we're not in. I'm certainly not in control of that, and I think there's only one person really that can control that.
There we are. Eddie Howe wants a resolution to the Alexander Isak situation. What does that look like, Alex?
Well, that's a pretty clear message, isn't it, to Alexander Isak, that he needs to pull his finger out and rejoin his teammates, because they've got a huge game on Monday. I don't think he's going to feature, but the atmosphere at St James's Park is going to be interesting, to say the least, because, of course, Liverpool are the visitors, and I'm sure Newcastle fans are going to make it clear exactly what they think about their attempts to sign Alexander Isak. But this Yoane Wissa situation that we spoke about at the top of this section does have implications for Alexander Isak, because Newcastle, to let him go, I think still need to sign 2 forwards. I've mentioned that Wissa is becoming a difficult deal to do. There was talk last week of Gonzalo Ramos from PSG. That was played down to me. I'm not sure that the player is keen to swap the European champions for Newcastle. Samu at Porto is another Newcastle have inquired about, but that seems to have gone cold as well. You can talk about Ollie Watkins, but Villa, I think, would have to get a replacement and to let him go this late in the window. Maybe the one who is attainable is Nicholas Jackson, but Chelsea want big money there. Do you know what, Jim? The nearer we get to the deadline, the nearer we get to September the 1st, I think the more likely it is that Alexander Isak stays at Newcastle. And then you ask the question, because those taunts were audible, and it was a majority of Newcastle fans at Villa Park making their feelings clear. How on earth does he start to patch up his relationship with the Magpies faithful?
Gee, Alex, thanks for that. Does that equate to some kind of a resolution, Simon, if Isak stays?
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, I think, as we've said and discussed, I think it's their own fault, Newcastle, to some extent. They've allowed a vacuum to develop where the players got bold, his agency have got bold, and they've made certain positions about what they will and won't do. Liverpool don't appear to want to move. Newcastle don't appear to want to sell the player for any price besides the one they determine, which, by the way, is their right. And perhaps if they'd have done what Marinakis had done from the outset, which is sit with a player and remind him of where he really is playing for and how things will play out for him in the real world, rather than in the sort of curated world of how an agent and player think they can live with 3 years on their contract, it might have had a better outcome. The fact is that if he isn't sold by Newcastle, then it'll become incumbent upon Eddie Howe to make sure that people embrace the return of this player. Well, he'll go in a year's time, but the fact is now Newcastle will have won a little battle in establishing themselves as a club that doesn't get pushed around by so-called legacy football clubs, and Isak will have to play properly for them, and probably will.
Do you think, Simon, in terms of like how Newcastle have handled this? I mean, he was being linked with all the top other clubs in the Premier League. Early last season, Arsenal, Liverpool were bidding for this player. Do you think with better communication behind the scenes, we've heard lots of stories at Ronaldo, for instance, Manchester United, Sir Alex Ferguson pulled him early and said, right, give me 1 more year. Give me 1 more year. Let's keep it all together, because it can implode a little bit. I think it's tricky because every press conference, I'm just wondering whether they could have anticipated what was coming.
But that's the big question, isn't it? About the leadership. I mean, they've got a huge ownership model behind the scenes that has all the money in the world, that ultimately has extreme influence in every sport that it plays in, and yet seems to be compliant with everything that goes on in English football and silent on what's happening with the big news story around their football club. And it would, with the fact that Darren Eales is no longer the CEO because he's not working there because of ill health, they seem to have nobody saying something very bold, which is this player will do as he's told. And he was saying it to the player, because what they're doing now is they're saying, like, the constant thing is, I was given an understanding. No, you weren't. You've got a contract. This constant load of old cobblers that players are trotting out now. I was given a gentleman's agreement. Oh, really? So when I draw up your contract from now on in, I'm going to draw it up on the back of a gentleman's agreement. We're not going to have contracts anymore. We're just going to have a gentleman's agreement on everything. No, I don't want a gentleman's agreement. I want a proper contract. But when it comes to you wanting to leave and break your contract, then you understood it to be a gentleman's agreement, did you?
Yeah, but with better communication, then that's not lost.
I agree.
Interpretation.
Yeah.
So there's some there may be a missing link here, and it's maybe Eddie's missing out because that's not been communicated to
absolutely.
the player.
But the Marinakis stepped into the void at Nottingham Forest and went to the player and said to him, I don't think so, son.
Yeah.